If you're anything like me, you find yourself struggling with the question of how your faith can be relevant in a time such as this. We live with terrible wars and ongoing conflicts that have disrupted lives in multiple countries. Our democracy is holding on by a thread, and it requires careful response and thoughtful interventions, all while global policies and human practices are slowly eroding our climate. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. And then you encounter the invitation of Matthew 25, verses 31 to 46. This portion of the gospel interrupts our despair and our distress over the swirling chaos of world events. Jesus pauses our self-absorption and invites us to simply pay attention to the needs we see around us. These verses are a call to action to be part of the story of hope that comes when we love our neighbors. Matthew 25, verses 35 to 36 say, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." These verses urge us to consider how we respond to needs. Not all of us can provide direct services to people experiencing displacement or imprisonment, but we can take action in spaces where we have connection. It begins by paying attention to the moments where you hear that small prophetic voice in your heart. It means responding to the nudging of the Holy Spirit calling you to serve. For me, the nudging in my heart began on March 13th, 2020, when the pandemic restrictions moved our lives online. Like many of us, I immediately and joyfully contributed to collection drives to help restock food pantry shelves. I sent cards of gratitude to frontline workers, but I wanted to do something on a global level. After all, when your life becomes virtual, everyone is your neighbor. I started to pray and ponder how I could use my time and talents to serve. I suspected that youth might be interested in participating virtually to create change in their communities. So after a few weeks of casual social media posts and invitations, 150 youth from 38 countries joined Entrepreneurship, which is an organization that I founded that overcomes the financial and educational barriers to create spaces for young people from all backgrounds to have spaces in the fields of entrepreneurship and learn about financial literacy. But why focus on entrepreneurship? Because the social problems we face are opportunities for entrepreneurial minds to address them. The path forward to climate change, economic injustices, and solving inequalities will require young people to look at our individual talents and ask, how can I turn this calling from God into something bigger than myself? The reality of Matthew 25 is that each of us is a part of God's plan to be change makers in the world. Individually, we must do what we can in communities where we find ourselves. There are needs all around us, regardless of where you live, work, or go to school. Each time we improve the lives of others or stand up for injustices, it creates hope. Together, we become the light that changes this world. So what story will you tell of how you have loved your neighbors? Will you be a spectator who feels overwhelmed with despair, or will you be the person who did something to help? What will your story be? So let's go and live our story of Matthew 25, not only as it is told in the Bible, but as it's told in our own lives.